Happy Earth Day, everyone. And I want to thank Ron with AQR for inviting me to this very, very important event. And thanks as well to the folks at the Anchorage Museum for making it possible. And it's so wonderful to be reading with Ellen and Allison today. A while back, I had a Zoom event with 49 writers and I talked about environmental writing. I mentioned that I distinguish between eco-literature and nature writing, and which I still do, but I also said that some of my best poems are poems of invective. And I want to retract that now because, in part, because I've been revisiting some of my earlier work, and I think it was unfair of me to disparage what might be called some of the softer touch pieces. So some of these first ones do fall more into the nature category, but generally speaking, there's been a progression for me toward work that focuses more on environmental issues. It's not always a straight line, but for this reading, I thought I'd start with a few more celebratory poems and then work my way up into the harder hitting pieces. This is very short. It's called The Art of Being. The fern and the rain breathes the silver message. Stay, lie low, play your dark reeds and relearn the beauty of absorption. There is nothing beyond the rotten log covered with weeds and needles. Forget the light emerging with its golden wick. Raise your face to the water-laden frond. 1,000 blossoms will fall into your arms. So this next one is called One March Animal's Desire. It's from my first book. And there's a play here on the word march, as in a way of walking and also the month. Warm days, we punch the snow with our footsteps, leaving the night's cool mercury to harden a crust. Better to travel early before the sun sends down the weight of its heat. If we were otters, so light and slick, surface wouldn't matter. We'd slide equally happy over white wallow, ice, or berm. Slung so low, we would not long for a pelvic vault, conceive ourselves the surrogates of a god. Heads up, one arm wrapped around heaven, the other aping the ground. We're treadfuls of evolution. It's not that great, this awkward posture that lumbers, drills, and pops. Texture, some claim, but I'd as soon leave a glaze or gentle indentation. I want to pass through smoothly, no belt at the hip, no buckle, one tawny hair in my wake, where my belly runnels the snow, or a slender whisker dropped in woods as I make my way to the river. In the past, I've expressed a yearning to withdraw from human cacophony to seek quiet and find solace in the natural world. I suppose that's why my second book is titled A Measure's Hush. Here's another poem from that collection. It's very much a research poem. Most of these grasses are not native to Alaska. Grass studies. If we can't be ether, I thought we might settle for grass. And why not slender wheat, which serves as forage for wildlife? Less populous than blue joint. It wasn't grown in Europe like canary, or as seed for captive songbirds, or used the way the Chippewa used foxtail to kill their troublesome dogs. A knife to the throat is considerably swifter. But who among us can know her purpose? It's just the sound of slender wheat I like, although oatgrass isn't bad, or timothy, or northern brome, not to be confused with another variety that's smooth and habitat invasive. It's hard to know what's natural, hard to learn that the grain of slender wheat is sometimes infected with ergot, a fungus causing lameness or necrosis. Still, the field is beautiful. There are grasses taller than my head. I'm drawn to the delicacy of inflorescence, the bend of the on in wind. This next piece is also from my first book, Bone Strings, and it was written long before the 2016 election, but it seems more relevant today with the reference to demagogues. I'd say the designation nature poem gets somewhat clouded here. It's called Ericleum lanatum, which is the Latin name for cow parsnip. And these plants get very tall, some up to 8 feet, and they have large white flower heads, and they grow all over South Central and Southwest Alaska. Ericleum lanatum. The flowers seem whiter this summer, more delicate than I remember. Drops of ethereal blood, the umbels and onion skin tracing, set down with a fine-tipped pen. What else might I miss in this life? How many days have I not seen the sky? Soft rags of clouds shining up the blue, their shadows tumbling casually over the mountains, while disillusion, like a dark flame, burned my mind's petty length. I'm tired of human clamor, smudge and clutter of the world. Who wants to go on governed by the same rude horns, the demagogues, the rabble? Let the culture fall to its own cravings. I'm taking up with things divine, leaf filter, sheath, and fiber. Stalks so tall they often lean, but determined to grow taller, that ask for only the rain's thin coins, the soil's nutrient, and a decent light. Moving forward, I have a slew of animal death poems, and I'm not going to read them all, but I'll just give you some titles. Elegy for 4 wolves killed by a neighbor last December. Martha, about the last known living passenger pigeon. Dirge, about a moose calf that drowned when our dog chased it into the water, and my feelings of guilt. And Window Feather, about a junco that hit my window. I want to read this next one, not only because it was published in AQR, but because it represents how reading has taken me to other places. This poem was born after I read the nonfiction book In the Heart of the Sea by Nathaniel Philbrick about the Nantucket whalers. Eulogy for the Galapagos tortoise. Like Hector, their armor did them no good, though they weren't speared, merely flipped by whalers, then pinned with a rock, not dragged by chariot around a tomb. Their legs were thonged, their 80-pound bodies strapped to a human back. The men must have cursed that weight in the sweltering heat as they struggled to the ship, but revenge was not a motive. The worth of a tortoise, 4,500 calories per man, equivalent to 9 days hardtack. Old pacifists of the slow blink, they say you could live for up to a year without any food or water. I see you on the battlefield, the open deck, bracing each roll of waves with your monumental legs, swinging in bewilderment your penile heads. Surely you would have given up on the tucked appendage and the dome that was not quite heaven. You must have understood at last that only the vulnerable come close to becoming immortal. This next one is set in Alaska, but on the Aleutian Islands, which I've never visited. It's titled The Sea Cow, and I wrote it after reading an account of the tragic Bering expedition where the sea breaks its back by Coray Ford. The sea cow was a large manatee-looking creature that was hunted to extinction. Her heavy body heaved away from shore, a sprout of blood on her back where the last gash furrowed, a plague of knives and bayonets, pennons of loosened skin rippled in clear May air. The fluked anchor gouged her side. Men on beach and boat held firm. She weakened. Her mate clubbed and jabbed, swam in as far as the shallows. Food for a fortnight, wrote the lieutenant. 7 months the shipwrecked crew had fought, Scurvy, foxes, weather, and starvation. 40 would survive, not bearing. He died December 8, half buried already in sand, discredited, scorned. He'd given 10 years to the crown, an ever-listing ship of duties. He was tired. He cared no more for honor. Briefly, he'd seen his men loosen their insolent lines of rank to tend one another as friends. At the edge of his dreams, the sea cow nibbled the tender kelp quietly, as if kindness could be a way of life. I wanted to read another piece called From the Testimony of Rivers, because the speaker, we, is the collective voice of rivers, but I don't have time for it. So I'm going to move on to the climate change poems. Again, I have a lot of them, but I wanted to share two that just appeared in AQR. These are part of a 24-poem linked sonnet sequence that it will be published this summer as a chapbook titled Late Fall Bucolics, which is meant ironically. This is called Gullible Hope. I stole the phrase from Plato, and it was great fun to research how various cultures have perceived hope, and I was really happy to throw in Greta Thunberg's comments about it here. Little heads up, Elpis was the spirit of hope in Greek mythology, and Vaughn was the Norse name for hope. Gullible hope. Gullible hope has managed to endure since Pandora first trapped the spirit in her jar, while evil outside thrived. A firefly so kept is sure to die, and with our current climatic war, even the ancient Greeks would have marveled at her survival. Though whether Elpis was deemed a gift or curse was long debated. For the grizzled Norseman, Vaughn was poorly rated, slobber that streamed from the jaws of Fenris wolf, verse less than suitable for the Bible. While Greta, our solemn Swedish maiden, is partial to panic. I don't want you to be hopeful, she declares. She flips back her braids and urges action. I look to the sky, no moon tonight, and I've lost her last position. She'll wax again and wane before Earth's holocaust. And then the follow-up poem to this, because these are linked sonnets. This one is called Holos, and it begins with an etymological exploration of the word Holocaust. Holos, whole, with kaustos, burnt, is Holocaust. For ancients, sacrificed by fire, burnt offerings. Moderns present them via car and ship exhaust. Toxic gases, particles that clog the lungs. Oh, earthlings, forever giving, no mere bowl, but a heavenful of benefactions. Imagine what's up there, fumes of goat, sheep, bullock, pigeon, and turtle dove. All the heated breath that's fashioned into prayer, not to mention smoke from the Amazon and Indonesia. There's more, of course, but the list is tedious. God is stifling a wide yawn. Enough. You'd think by now he would insist we curb the burning. We need a sign, monsoon and hurricane, that scald and blister the skin, a blazing wind, a searing rain. And one more. This is also from this sequence. They're all rhyme sonnets, by the way. And this one is very much a place poem. And here I point to my own culpability regarding climate change. It's called Wrapped, R-A-P-T. Evening, the welcome dark. We lie on the bed, wrapped by fire, visible through the glass door of our stove. Flame, a serpent's tongue, coals, hot coral, capped with beetle-killed rounds of spruce. The insects love the changing climate, as Steve and I love wood, the texture, the heft, the harvest, the sawing and hauling until the split dry log in its smelted coffin is laid to rest. and mostly the warmth, which feels more natural a source than that of a furnace fed with oil. We justify our use. Trees are renewable, but too many homes reliant have denuded whole landscapes, engendered injurious air. What choice? We are here. Our lifestyle we pledge to spare. Thank you very much.